Hello, and welcome to the next episode of Two Girls Talk Transits. Today, we're reviewing the astrology from October 13th through October 19th, and we're your host. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Kaleigh.
And here we go. So, this is like your challenging week. I was going to say the worst week, but I actually think like the last week of October is even more worse. So, don't worry. Um,
What a note to start things on.
Sorry, guys. Well,
Mm.
literally, our first aspect on the 13th of October is Mercury in Libra is squaring Pluto in Capricorn.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, here you go, right? Well, it's just like Pluto is already, this is only 2 days after Pluto's station direct. So Pluto is already a really like potent planet in our sky right now in terms of its energies. And then Mercury, the messenger coming into a square aspect, will deliver a lot of those messages quite literally to your face or to your life, I think.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's some kind of like shedding that might be also happening like in the mind area. Maybe you're like shedding old beliefs or old patterns. And we mentioned this before, like with Pluto like wrapping up its little shopping spree in Capricorn. Um we're just like wrapping up that cycle in a way. So yeah, I think it has to do with information about like the Pluto and Capricorn aspect. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. Because like this direct station of Pluto on the 11th is like go time. Like there is exactly a month of Pluto left in Capricorn.
Hmm.
So, and then of course it happens coincidingly with these planets and Libra starting with Mercury squaring it. And I mean, Venus did it back in September, but really feeling that with Mercury. And that sets the theme for this week too. It's like we have a big week with Pluto getting touched on by a bunch of different planets. So it's like, it's just intense. It becomes really intensified. It's like Pluto, what was the example? Like the mushroom cloud, like Pluto was created when the atomic bombs were created. Like Pluto was found when the atomic bombs were created.
Uh-huh.
And so you can think about that symbolism as Pluto, like the tiniest little planet, tiniest little dot in the sky that's not even a planet or not even classified as a planet anymore, becomes that huge atomic bomb, mushroom cloud explosion in your life. Like the tiniest little thing suddenly becomes so much for you to deal with. It's like this deep transformation process that's really starting. And Mercury on Libra on this day could be like, this is your transformation. This is your month that you have to work through. This is what you're working through, you know?
Mm. So Pluto in a way is kind of like that unsuspecting villain or like that thing that's like lurking in the shadows that you're not really taking too much into consideration because it's so insignificant and then it like actually is
Yeah.
significant.
Right. Like I think it's is it the Jungian psychology where it talks about how deep your subconscious or how your subconscious, unconscious, one of those like controls like like almost 70% of everything that you do or just the way that you methodically go about life.
I think it's 95%. I
Yeah,
think
is
it's
it even more?
high,
It's even more
yeah.
because it's just like something that's so ingrained to your psyche about like how you live about life, Like you're so immune to it. You don't think about breathing. You don't think about pumping blood through your body. You don't think
Hmm.
about any of that. And Pluto can represent those things in your mind, those things, your beliefs that you don't think about clearly, that you just knowingly continue this patterning. But this week, it may become obvious to you what that unconscious patterning is.
Yeah, yeah, because just because we don't have the awareness doesn't mean it's not, very much there. It would be like, like when we shift our field of focus, like when we turn and look
Mm.
at something, like everything behind us is still there. We're just not looking at it.
Yeah.
So it's like when we turn around to look, we're like, oh, that's actually all there. Like everything we can't see is still there.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think you're going to be feeling this particular really deeper Pluto struggles and um practically it can be a lot of really intense conversations or difficult conversations that come up especially around like the 12th, just to like the square is happening really early on the 13th, but also on the 13th, but like the 12th, the 13th or so, like that's going to be the intensification part, I think, the most.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
then, sorry, go ahead.
No. So if there are going to be like some intense conversations, maybe doing a little bit of like research on communication styles to kind of like just lessen the blow a little bit. I feel like if there are going to be arguments, at least like, or some kind of like intense conversations, at least learning how to do it in like an efficient way would be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the sun's still in Libra. I think there's still going to be a lot of diplomatic desire to maintain harmony.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I was saying that, but I'm sitting here thinking like with Venus and Scorpio, I almost wonder if it's just like you want to be careful not over compromising, like not over putting your beliefs aside or putting your needs aside to appease the power in a way, you know?
Right. Like maybe there is a part of you that like does see, like you see the diplomatic side of things, but
But
then choosing not to
yeah,
go
like you should
that route.
actually like
Mm-hmm.
challenge it.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like you should actually say something now. You know, I don't know. It's just an idea because I'm thinking because we're gonna see this week we have a lot with Venus too in Scorpio.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking it's like actually wanting to confront those things you're uncomfortable with too.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially because also on this day, Mercury is entering into Scorpio. So we're going to have more of that scorpionic energy, less like trying to save face and make things appealing and appeasing for everybody, and more like standing up for maybe what we truthfully see, like what's really there, and, saying the like harsh truth of that reality in some way or another.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because like the shift into Scorpio, we are ruled by Mars now, or Mercury's being ruled by Mars. So it's like maybe at first, maybe the first time that aspect happens when Mercury's in Libra and it squares Pluto, you're like, okay, my bad, kind of roll over, kind of be the diplomatic harmony, create the harmony. But then Mercury moves into Scorpio and you're like, wait a minute, like that's not actually gonna fly with me. Like because these planets are all being ruled by Mars. And the big thing of not just Mars and Cancer this month, because it's happening early next month, but this month as well, but also
Mm-hmm.
with the Mars retrograde, is Mars is squaring Pluto 3 times. And
Mm.
those two are one of the most explosive, combative, frustrating, harder aspects. So just saying like I don't think keeping the peace is actually going to be the theme at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for Libra.
Yes. But you get a little bit of hope though, a little bit of hope on the
Mm.
13th as well. You do just for a moment feel a little bit of abundance and hope on the 13th. The very end of the day, on the 13th, the sun in Libra will trine Jupiter in Gemini. So there's maybe a little bit of support of being able to kind of communicate or talk out amongst your community, your friends, or close relationships. um, these are air signs, so it's really good for detaching and looking at things rationally and logically. So the little bit of like expansion, I think, but I think it's a little overpowered with everything else going on.
Mm-hmm. And Jupiter will be retrograde at this time also.
Right.
So I think there might, the sun trining there, it might be a little bit some awareness around what that's going to look like, the Jupiter retrograde, like the first little inkling of, hey, what's this kind of going to mean for me? Uh,
Hmm.
yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, I actually do. I think that would be a big part of wherever Jupiter's been expanding in Gemini. The sun trine may be a moment of awareness of like, this is really intense right now, but I can also appreciate and review and honor how the Gemini area in my chart has really expanded.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So there's some sort of like a little bit of optimism, but it's like quickly doused very quickly. The next day, when the sun will then move into a square with Mars in Cancer.
Right. Yeah, so
That
okay, we have some awareness around like how Jupiter's been expanding. And then our awareness shifts a little bit to what Mars in Cancer is meaning. Um, yeah.
yeah.
We've spoken a
I
lot about Mars and Cancer, but what do you want to say about it?
I mean, we're in this like weird cardinal sign T square aspect kind of ish building with Mars and Cancer building to the opposition to Pluto, and then the Sun also building to that square to Pluto before it enters into Scorpio. I just think there's just so much tension about what you are trying to initiate, start, or create in your life, and the role that that role of doing that, how it involves other people, the tension of managing relationships or managing different components, both sides of the scale, right? The Sun in Libra is really about starting things diplomatic, starting new relationships, starting new connections with people, but now you're also dealing with this like really deep shadow that's just like imposing on you and having to manage that while also start something that it is going to be reviewed. So I just
Mm.
think it's a really intense period of intensity where you're in a like a rock and a hard place there. You really want to create and move direction forward, especially after the eclipses. Like the eclipses have always been that spark energy, so you're wanting to move forward, but it seems like everything is kind of just frustrating, or you have these inner needs that you have to take care of, or you're constantly having to manage power differences within this project.
Interesting. What comes up for me when you talk about that is I was reading the other day about how like our creations as human beings, like what we create has like the potential to shift our identity. Like it's through our creations that we like change almost into another person. Like think about you decide to create a book and write a book. All of a sudden you've shifted your identity to now being an author or something like this. So it could also be, I think, with the sun in Libra that maybe we're wanting to yeah, maybe we're wanting like an identity of some kind of like appeasing to people or something, and we're having conflict with whatever it is that we're wanting to start. Like you said, with Mars and Cancer, we're not able to get that ball rolling with that identity that we're like envisioning for ourselves.
That's a really good point. Just to coming back to like the basic astrology of the sun fallen in Libra, the sun, has wants to find identity, but in Libra, it has no resources to do so. Libra does not want your identity here, does not want to
Right.
know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so it does feel like we're struggling to maintain our sense of self almost like with everything that's intensifying with the Mars aspect, what we're working through with Mars and Cancer, but then also with the Pluto retrograde month that we're in, or Pluto direct in Capricorn month. Like you may just be in a period this week where you have to constantly be reminding yourself, who are you? Like, what do you stand for? What are your values? Because you can easily lose that with the sun in Libra.
That totally makes sense though. That's so Libra energy because you have to be so diplomatic sometimes that like your own opinion doesn't matter. It's like I'm just
Mhm.
seeing the very like baseline sides of each thing. Like my opinion is irrelevant. And that, yeah, that totally speaks to like, and that's the opposition to Aries. You know, the Aries is very like opinion oriented and like, this is what I believe, this is what I stand for. And Libra sits the exact opposite of that.
Exactly. And so, in the sun, we're still trying to grab that, but we may be, you just want to check in with yourself maybe during the middle of the week, especially before the full moon. Like, am I staying true to myself? Am I staying true to who I truly am? Or do I have I shifted? And it's okay to change. Like, it is okay to grow and change and have different opinions on things, but are you trying to just manage the conflict, or are you actually standing up for yourself?
Yeah, I think that's a good reflection, you know, at any moment. But yeah, absolutely. Like, we do need to like check and assess our actions. Like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Is it actually what I believe is the best thing, or am I kind of following suit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, good point.
So, no, I mean, I think that's a really big theme because that theme is attached to the full moon this week, but we'll come back to it. Between then, we also get then the Venus and Scorpio opposite Uranus and Taurus on the 14th as well. That was just not a good day.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
uh, I mean, you got Venus and detriment in Scorpio. I mean, she's just trying to make the darker parts prettier. That's someone was complaining about all the judgment language we use in Hellenistic astrology, but like I would push back on that as to saying it makes you think about things differently. But you
Right.
know,
Mhm.
but Venus and Scorpio is trying to embrace this heaviness that we're in. Honestly, I mean, that's the best way to put it, I think. And she's trying to embrace your unconscious and the things that you are hitting from yourself. And Uranus can really expedite that. It can really add that level of lightning or shock wave to it, or you uncover something from this work that creates a disruption or wants to create a disruption in your life that you're challenged to do.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some type of relationship here between um wherever Scorpio is in your life, in your chart, and where Taurus is. These two are having a relationship between, like you said, Maddie, like values and what, like trying to make things prettier. But
Hmm.
Uranus is like coming in to change that in some way. I'm really interested how this is gonna manifest actually. Yeah, just
I
like
know.
reflecting on my own chart, I'm thinking, hmm.
Yeah, we both have angular like fixed signs. So,
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, it's like it's interesting because it's like whatever being started through this Libra season and all these acts, interactions we've been having with the planets in Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn is also what I would say is like greatly impacting the fixed or more stable parts of your life too.
Right. Oh,
There's
which
like that
would be,
connection. Yeah.
yeah.
So it's like you're starting something intentionally, creating and moving forward and running into these challenges. And then also, suddenly, all of a sudden, what was stable that was slightly different, like a different part of your life, is also being changed. And you're like, oh, wait, I didn't expect that because I didn't know those two were connected or something like that?
Right. And it's like too, like we expect, like sometimes there are some parts of our life that we expect to be fixed. Like we
Yeah.
expect to be the same, we expect to be stable. And when we have some kind of energy there that's disrupting that expected stability, that can like kind of throw us for an entire new loop, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And then you're just like, and it's all like building to the full moon. And so it's just, yeah, I don't know. I think in Venus, but I at least think with Venus opposite Uranus, I think that's going to be the easier disruption because it's Venus. It's not necessarily comfortable, but it's like, okay, I can see how I can make this work for me, or I can see the relationships that are coming out of this, or I can see the aesthetic change that I need to make that's just more in alignment with myself, you know?
Right. So the next day we have Venus in Scorpio trining Neptune. So that progression could, I think, kind of look like having a sweeter reflection on like
Yeah.
maybe what had happened. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Neptune in this capacity is two ways. You either completely numb out and escape the reality, or you have a lot of faith and you embrace the unknown aspect of the reality.
Yeah. I think it probably comes down to how comfortable you as an individual are with Neptune energy. Like, how is Neptune aspected in your chart? I was reading a lot about Neptune the other day and how it's aspected in different people's charts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what did anything come up that was interesting?
Well, I was particularly reading about like drug addictions and eating disorders, and Neptune plays a big part in that if you have an afflicted Neptune.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, yeah, this isn't to say like I'm not like saying anything in particular, like, but um, I don't know. It's just you got to be careful with Neptune sometimes. Like, it can really take you for a ride because it is totally like destabilizing.
Yeah, I think the way the Neptune functions is that it's just this really feeling of dread and like unknown at times, like a really negative. Like a positive aspect of Neptune is really highly creative in divinity, but like a lot of people feel the negative aspect of Neptune, I think, because it's just so not properly utilized in our society. Um,
Could be, yeah, because it can be like Neptune representing like spirituality, could be used in like a malefic way.
well, I'm actually reading a book too about drug use and like how like we demonize it, but like it could be used as like this tool to just help us embrace that really deeper, like unknowing dread and inner fear because it puts you on that realm. But we demonize people who don't know things or like, have that sort of wishy-washy spiritual whatever thing. We really like the more Saturnian, especially in America. And so that conflict, I think, is just like a societal thing. And so we struggle with like embracing Neptune sometimes because we're scared to not actually have a systematic plan for this.
Hmm.
Like it's like we can think about it like in a hurricane, like the hurricane that's coming. Like we can sit here and map out all things all day, all day. It may hit here, it may move 5 miles south, it may move 5 miles northwest. It's going to be a total different thing, but you don't know until it happens. And so,
Yeah.
how do you deal with that uncertainty? Do you embrace the faith, spirituality, or do you just numb and
Yeah, I think I always look at Neptune as like we have two options, really,
yeah,
because Neptune wants to get in touch with a different source. It doesn't matter like where that source is, it's just like an otherworldly source. So
mm,
you have options when it comes to Neptune. Like you can disassociate, you can use drugs, or you can turn to spirituality. You have options there. It's just whatever you decide to do. But you were mentioning the United States, I think since we're such a young country too, we don't have like that like really deep connection to like spirituality like the Native Americans did, but since we came and colonized, like a lot of that like deep connection to spirituality has been erased. So, that can
yeah,
when we don't
it's-
have that, yeah, as a community, like it can show up a lot in drug addiction and like mental health problems and things like
yeah.
this. Mm-mm.
Yeah, because I think true spirituality, especially, I mean, I don't want to say true spirituality, it's the wrong word, but I'm going to say that. But like deeper spirituality connects you with nature.
Right.
And even Christianity, often the way Christianity has evolved, not how it was created, but how it has evolved, especially in America, absolutely disconnects you from nature
Oh
and
yeah,
promotes
agree.
capitalism. And so you are nature. Like you were created from the earth. Like
Right.
if you try to deny that, you're gonna really struggle with Neptune. But if you really try to tap into that, however that looks for you, again, whatever spiritual path you takes you, but that is more earth oriented, will feel much easier because that literally grounds you, you
Mm,
know?
I do agree. Yeah, I agree with you. I think though, like, when we live in such a capitalistic society, it's so hard to find that balance, because it's like everything everybody is doing seems to be in direct opposition to that like
Yeah,
notion that we could be these spiritual beings who like care for the earth, because how can we be that in the face of everything that is showing us the world is not like that right now?
exactly. And
Yeah.
so that's the inherent conflict and, bad rap that Neptune gets because yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, all that to say,
Neptune had us going on like a never-ending
yeah,
spiral.
yeah. So literal.
I know.
Um, all that to say is that like this Venus trine Neptune day is to embrace some part of that peace, even if you don't know what's going to happen, if you don't know if you are facing a lot of uncertainty or uncomfort information or scarcity in your life, to find something that helps you feel connected.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, like dive into something in a way that is allowing you to connect with some kind of source, like I mentioned. We
Hmm.
probably want to choose something that's a little bit more beneficial. I hope so. You do, but
Yeah.
it's a free country.
Make your decisions. But
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Mm-mm.
So that sets the stage for the last few aspects of this week is mainly around the full moon, or they're kind of all on the full moon.
Mm-hmm.
Is this full moon in Aries on October 17th. So let me share the screen for the video. But what we're looking at here is this sun at 24 Libra opposite the moon at 24. This full moon is in an ugly square. It's like a full square. We have Mars. We know we just had the sun square on Mars. That was just a couple days ago. And then the first aspect that full moon is going to make is a square to Pluto.
Yeah.
And I mean, like Mercury and Venus are not seen. They're in kind of the sextile from Jupiter, but I wouldn't pay it. I would not put emphasis on that. What we're looking at is literally just this really agitating, frustrating square full moon with Mars and Pluto mixed. And it's, yeah, I mean,
It's going to be intense energy. Like full moons in general are already intense. And then when you have it ruled by Mars, that increases the intensity. Squaring Pluto, again, we're like just upping the ante, like one piece at a time.
mhm.
So it's definitely going to be one of those, yeah, full moons that we just feel really intensely. And I would say, you know, that they say, like not to, like medical procedures, like don't get medical procedures on a full moon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, especially like with the Mars square, I would
Y-
not. Yeah.
Yeah. And the Mars, yeah. Yeah,
Mm-mm.
I don't know. This is just like it can be like I see it as like there's a celebration or a big completion or some kind of, peak energy with the Aries part of your life, but of how you're like taking action and moving forward, but you're having a lot of conflict with that pressure direction and just having to end up with a lot of tensions and a lot of like deeper issues that you have to work through. Like this was a really exciting project that you were starting, you're doing, and you're initiating, and it's awesome. But now you're also uncovering all this hidden baggage behind it.
Yeah, because no, like any kind of creative process, anything we create, like it goes through cycles of like ups and downs. Like one minute we
Mhm.
really believe in it, and then the next minute we think it's like totally impossible. So it just might be one of those like trench periods where we're kind of feeling like, shoot, this is going to be like a lot more work than I
Mm.
had bargained for or I had thought initially.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And the other thing with like squares and sometimes with these oppositions, it just creates a lot of like everyone's stuck in one position. Like nothing's quite moving forward yet. You're
Yeah.
just all like grinding up against each other.
Yeah, because squares can represent like stagnation, right?
Yeah. More oppositions more so, but like the square, I feel like in this position, just because Mars is just also not in a very powerful place in Cancer at all, I do feel like it's more of like stagnation, frustration, and everything else in that sense.
Right.
Hmm. Yeah. So I don't know. It's this theme with that full moon is going to be something that's going to elongate. So it's not to say that that is like all happening on that day, but I do think it's a frustrating period of time per se. And so you just have to just keep pushing through that. Luckily, like, Venus was in a little bit of a sextile to Pluto on that full moon. I don't have too much to add to that. It's just like a sextile. But like the end of the week, like Venus does move into Sag on the 17th.
So more
And
optimistic.
yeah, exactly. Like I like that. I don't like that she is going to be running into a square with Saturn really
Right.
quickly, but then she'll be opposite Jupiter. And
I
that
mean,
may
she's ruling
feel
Jupiter also. Or I mean,
right.
yeah.
No,
Or
Jupiter will
Jupiter.
be ruling her. Yeah.
Yes, yes, that's what I mean. Yes. So it has some kind of positive influence on wherever Jupiter is also.
Right. And so the mutable signs of your life will start to feel better for sure. The mutable signs, if you have more mutable placements, you're gonna have a lot more ease, flow. If you are feeling cardinal, you have a lot of cardinal signs, that's gonna be your hardest week for sure. And then fixed energy is still also going to be tense. So
Right.
that, yeah, that's the main kind of note we're ending on is like there is hope. There's hope at the end of the week. There's gonna be some flow, but I think this week is going to bring up a big explosion point of just contention.
Mm. Yeah. Interesting. I'm interested to see what happens. We've had like
Yeah.
a lot of explosive energy, I feel like this month already. So I'm,
Right?
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
interested to see how that will manifest in my
Yeah.
personal life and in the collective.
I mean, collectively, I feel like we're already seeing a lot of it, just like the election period.
Mm-hmm. We've got so much in the United States and on the East Coast with these hurricanes, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff with the war going on. There's just a lot going on lately. And I feel like, I don't know if other people are feeling this, but I feel like so much more plugged in to news than I ever did
Right.
before. I think it's TikTok.
That
Honestly, when
might
I
be
came on
it.
TikTok, it was like, TikTok has informed me. I need to look at their birth chart.
Yeah, that's a good one. You could do the birth charts with the social media companies.
Ooh, that would be super interesting.
Maybe we'll do that. That'll be
Mm-hmm.
fun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, thanks for tuning in. If you want more, if you want like daily updates and stuff, you can follow us on TikTok, Two Girls Talk Transits. We're also on Instagram there, and my personal account's on there as well at maddie.delray or my website at maddiedelray.com. What about you, Kaleigh?
You can find me healed.on earth on Instagram. That's it.
All right, y'all, we'll see you next week.
See you.
Bye.